Everybody, JC here with another T&I toy review. And today's review is in association with MarvelousNews.com, your #1 news source for everything Marvel. And for today's review, I'm going to be taking a look at the brand new Marvel Legends 6-inch Lizard Build-A-Figure from Hasbro. Now, just to recap, the figures that you need to get in order to be able to complete this Build-A-Figure is the new Spider-Woman figure, Spider-Man Noir, the Prowler figure, Spider-Punk, Lasher, Gwenpool, and Mysterio. Now once you have all the pieces together, it's pretty easy to assemble this figure. So first of all, just take the torso section and then you just want to snap in the legs, and you want to make sure you have the right leg that goes in the right side and the left leg that goes in the left side, and they should snap in pretty easily. So I'll get those snapped in. And then same with the arms. Now with the arms, you want to make sure you have the coat covering the circle piece so that you get the coat on. The coat piece is actually removable on the figure, though the sleeves aren't. The sleeves are actually sculpted, so it would look kind of funny if you didn't have the coat actually on the figure. But you want to make sure you pop in those arms and get them to pop in nice and tight. And then the head just connects with that ball joint, so you might have to pull the joint a little bit because the coat kind of pushes a little bit. But you should be able to get the head pushed in pretty good, push down, and then finally the tail. So you just got that little ball joint, and then you just plug it into his butt basically. And you want the lighter side of the tail basically facing downward. Okay, and here's a look at the figure fully assembled with the tail and everything. So overall, I like the way this figure looks. I do have some minor complaints. I, like many of you, have noted that the tail looks a little bit off with the articulated points on it. It does have 3 articulated points. And I actually talked to Dwight Stahl from Hasbro about this during HasCon, and he had mentioned that probably if he could go back and redo it, he would have done the tail a little bit differently. I don't think it looks horrible. I don't think it looks as bad as some of you have seen some of you say. I do think it would have looked better had they gone with more like, you know, done a twisty wire in the tail and let it be like that, as opposed to the actual hard plastic with the articulation. And then with the head sculpt, I do like the head sculpt. I really like the detailing with the head sculpt. I like the way they've done the skin with the scales and everything. And I even like the way the tongue looks. The tongue is not removable and really doesn't have any posability. It just kind of hangs out of his mouth like that. It might have been good if they'd maybe made the tongue so you could like move it around the mouth a little bit, but I still think it looks pretty good. And it's done with just that kind of rubber material, and it's done with a dark pink type color. And I like the way the teeth are all sculpted and everything, so I like that detailing. And the eyes look very reptilian. Now some of you have noted that this head sculpt looks more like a raptor dinosaur than a lizard, and I do agree with that assessment. The head is very raptor-like, but I think that actually works for the character. It obviously doesn't incorporate his more classic look, but we have seen the lizard drawn many different ways over the years, some leaning more towards that kind of dinosaur look, and so I don't have a problem with that. And I like just the way the sculpting detail with this head. I like the darker colors around the eye. I like how they've done that. And then again, I really like the texturing with the scales. And even on the neck, I like the way they've done the different texturing down the neck and everything. So I like that, and I think they nailed the look of the lab coat with all the tears. And it's kind of dirty. It's done with a white rubber type material, but then it gets kind of dirty down here near his arms, and then down here towards the bottom of the jacket as well. So I like that added paint detail. And then again, I like the texturing with the skin, and you got some lighter and darker greens mixed in, so I think that looks good. And he's got very sharp looking claws, so I like the way the hands look on this. And then he's got the purple pants with the tears. He's got the shirt, the lab shirt, which is also torn, and you can see some scales with his chest through there. So I like that detailing. And even on the underside of the head with the lighter green, I really like that sculpting detail with that, and again, the texturing of the skin. So I really like this figure and the overall look. Like I said, I do have some minor complaints with the tail. I do think the tail would have been better had they made it with a twisty type material inside that kind of hides the articulation, but I don't think it's horrible. And even with the tail, I like, you know, the lighter underside is a lighter color, so I think that looks pretty good. So I don't have a major complaint with the tail. I do think it's the weakest part of the figure, but I don't think it destroys the look of the figure in any way. The tail also gives the figure some added stability. The lizard tends to kind of lean forward, which will make the figure a little bit top heavy, so the tail is actually also kind of used as a kickstand for the figure so that he doesn't fall over as easily. So this figure stands, and it can vary a little bit depending on how you stand him, but get him about as straight as you can. He stands close to 7 inches, just under 7 inches, and again, it varies a little bit, but that's about as tall as I can get him and look halfway normal. Just in case if you're wondering, his width, if you count to the tip of his tail, is about almost 12 inches. And here's a comparison of the lizard with the other figures in the wave. Now, while Lizard was not an original member of the Sinister Six, he has been part of that team, so here's a comparison with some of his Sinister Six buddies. And then finally, here's a comparison with the older Toy Biz 6-inch Marvel Legend Lizard figure, and while this was a good figure, I definitely like the newer Hasbro version better. Articulation, he's got pretty good movement. So with the head, you can turn the head at the neck. Basically, you can rotate it to the left and the right, and then he's got a hinge joint here, so you've got some up and down movement. That's about as high up as you can get the head, and it doesn't actually stay if you know, it kind of comes back down. So really, you can kind of have him looking straight ahead, and then you can have him look down. He can look almost straight down, which is good. And then the jaw is articulated, so you can open the mouth pretty wide on this one, which is good for eating people. And then he's got the arms, which are attached with your standard ball hinge joint here at the shoulder, so he can get his arm out. Well, I popped it out there, but you can get the arm out pretty good, about that much. And then he's got good rotation there at the shoulder. He's got a bicep swivel. He's got a double hinged elbow, so he can bend his elbow about that much. And then he's got rotation at the wrist and hinges on the hands, so you get some up and down movement with the hands. Then he's got a midsection ab crunch type joint, so he can kind of crunch up in a ball pretty good. And then you can straighten him out pretty decently as well there at the midsection, so that can give him some added height if you want to make him taller. But he stands better when you have him kind of crunching forward, and I think looks better as well. He also has a waist swivel, so he's got rotation there at the waist, and then the legs are attached with ball joints, so he can do the splits about that much. He can get his leg forward pretty good, and then he's got a bicep swivel. Now with the knees are a double hinged knee, but really you can't get the knees very straight. His legs are basically meant to be bent, so you can basically bend them that much, but getting them straight, that's about as straight as you can get it. And then he does not have like a boot cuff swivel or anything. And then with the feet themselves, they're attached with hinge joints, so you've got up and down movement, and you do have ankle pivot, and then you do have toe articulation with this one as well, and 2 peg holes on the bottom of the feet. And then the tail, of course, is articulated, so you've got articulation up where it connects to the body, where you got up and down movement, or left and right, or you can rotate, and then you can also rotate it around. It just attaches with a ball type joint. And then you've got a point of articulation here, a point of articulation here. Now you can rotate here, and then you've got a hinge joint, so you've got up and down movement there. And then again here you've got a hinge joint, so you've got up and down movement and rotation there at the tip. Okay, so that's my review. So overall, I really like this figure. I like the detailing with all the sculpting with the scales and everything. I like the paint applications. I think they did a solid job with that. I think the figure is a good size. I even like the dinosaur looking head. I think it's very fitting for the character. My only minor complaint does come with the tail. I think it would have been better had they used rubber bendy type material for the tail. But still, I don't think the tail is horrible, and definitely doesn't ruin the figure for me in any way. So if you're a fan of the Lizard, I think you'll want to add this to your collection without a doubt. This figure, along with the rest of the wave, will be hitting shelves here in the United States by the end of February or early March, possibly sooner. It is already hitting overseas, but that is the release date that I have for this wave. We'll have a full image gallery up at marvelousnews.com. There'll be a link in the video description below for that. As always, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Also, please hit that subscribe button down below. I'd really appreciate it. You can also follow me on my Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram accounts. I have links to those in the video description as well. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later.